Okay, here we go. We're going to start to talk about face value a little bit more. We touched on it a bit last week, but we're going to get rolling in it this week and probably a little bit into next week. And from there on out, it will keep coming back and we'll do more and more with it as we go along. Now, you have, I believe, at home your brand new 5th grade Big Ideas math book. And that looks a little bit like this, right? Okay, and we are going to turn to page number 2 in that book. I'm going to change my camera so that you can see it. And right here. It's funny because I have to do everything upside down in order for my camera to work for you guys. So bear with me while I get myself situated. I want us to work on this page today and some of the vocabulary words today. But before we even get into the vocabulary words that are going to be in this chapter, I want to talk to you about the places that we already know. And we discussed it a little bit last week. If you notice here, we talked about this decimal point, and this decimal point we say and because on the right side of the decimal point, it's a fraction. It's not a whole number. This is your whole number. So when you're looking at the whole number and deciding what value the number has, you have to remember what you've known all along about whole numbers, that this is the ones place and that this is the tens place. We read this number right here, we read this as 83 because it's 8 tens. And 8 tens is 80, right? 8 times 10 is 80. Count by tens until you get to 8 and 8 times, and it's 80. And this is the ones place. There are 3 ones. So we would look at this as having 8 tens, 3 ones, 83. We can do that with our base 10 blocks, right? You've seen these 1,000 times. So we would have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and then we have our 3 units, our 3 ones, right? 1, 2, 3. Well, you can't see them. 1, 2, 3, 83, right? The reason why we can count by tens is because you know there are 10 units in this rod, right? There are 10 units. This is 1 unit. There's 10 of them in this rod, right? So that's why we can count by tens. Makes counting a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, and we can see the value there, okay? So this number on the left side of the decimal point is your whole number. This side is a fraction, and we're gonna see those fractions represented with the words that have that TH at the end, tenths, hundredths. It's pieces of a whole. So let me show you what I mean. I brought brownies today. Aren't they lovely? Do you love my brownies? They look so delicious. Just kidding. We're gonna take this 1 sheet of brownies and we would cut it into 10 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 separate pieces, right? So with the magic of the camera, I have my 10 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are my 10 pieces, okay? So this was my whole sheet of brownies, and now it's all cut up. And this is 1/10 of that whole. 1/10 of that whole sheet of brownies that I made. If I was to lay them out again, you would see it would be a whole sheet. They're just cut into pieces now, right? So this is 1/10 of it. If I held up these 2 pieces and gave them to Arabella, these would be 2/10 of the whole brownie. And then maybe because Trevor was feeling super hungry, I gave him 3/10 of the whole brownie, right? Those are fractions. And 2/10 would be represented, if you remember, we would have the decimal point and then the 2, and that would be 2/10. And then we would have the decimal point 3, that would be 3/10. Make sense? That's the tenths place, the number that is right after the decimal point. So if the number right after the decimal point is the tenths place, the number after that is the hundredths place, this one right here. That means that I have now split these tenths. They're no longer tenths. Now I've cut them up so small that I've cut them up into hundredths. These tiny little pieces are hundredths. So if I was going to put a number right here, like a 1, that means 21 hundredths. That means I would give Arabella 21 of these tiny little pieces. 21 hundredths of the brownie. Or maybe I would give Trevor 35 hundredths of the brownie. Well, that doesn't seem fair. So I'm going to change Arabella's, and Arabella is going to get what? How many hundredths are you going to get now, Arabella? Let's make it even. Let's make it equal. 35 hundredths of the brownie. Does that make sense? I hope so. So when we're looking at these numbers, this number is the whole, and then this number is the fraction. So when we look at the whole and we cover that part up and we see that this is in the tens place, there's 8 tens, that's what we would write here, tens. We're looking at this whole number, 83. Remember I showed you with the base 10 cubes? We had 8 of these and 3 units. This 3, what do you think? Is that the ones place, the hundredths place, or the tenths place? We already used the tenths place. Yes, it's the ones place. So we would write ones place in this box. What about this number? Remember I told you on the right side of the decimal point, that's a fraction. So we're going to look at that hundredths or tenths. Remember this one is the tenths place. Good. This one is the tenths. Remember I said I would give you 2 tenths or 3 tenths. And then when we get into even smaller pieces, we might have 57 hundredths, right? 57 hundredths. Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't want you to define it yet. You can. That's optional. You're more than welcome to do it. It's finding your vocabulary words that you're going to see on the next page, on page 3. And you can feel free to take those out, cut them out, read them, practice them. I'm going to bring up my screen so that I can share with you those vocabulary words, and you can go into big ideas and you can do this on your own if you wanted to practice those vocabulary cards. So let me show you. And this is base, right?
Base of a power.
Okay.
Base of a power.
And the base of a power is the repeated factor in a power. So if we have the number 10 and we have the 5 above it, it just means that we're saying 10 5 times. So we're counting 10 times 10, we're multiplying 10 5 times in a row. So 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. We're not there yet. We are not going to talk about the base so much. I just want to show it to you because it is on the next page. You do not have to learn that right now. Right now, we are trying to look at place value and position and working really hard on solidifying those single-digit multiplication facts, okay? So we're gonna work on that. But this is on the next page and you can just skip right over that vocabulary word. This is another one that you're going to skip over. This says exponent. And again,
Exponent.
on the back of this card, you'll see that's where that little number is up there, just telling us that we're gonna multiply that 10 5 times. And you can do that with a calculator. You can put in your 10 and then you can hit multiply and 5 times and see what the answer of 10 to the power of 5 is. You can check that out if you'd like to. Not something we're going to focus on today or even this week. Period is something that I want to talk to you about because the period does show our place value. We see that this period before this comma is the thousands period. Just like I told you last week when we're reading this number, 538, we say 1,000 when we see that comma there. Anytime there's a group of 3 numbers in a multi-digit number, we need to have that comma after the 3 numbers. This particular number is 538,774. This is the ones period. This is the thousands period. We're going to skip over power. I just was talking to you about the base and the exponent. The power is what the answer is to this, 10 to the power of 5. And like I said, if you want to do it with your calculator, you can try to figure that number out if you're up for it. But that's not something that we're going to discuss today or in the close future. This is an important vocabulary word on the next page, thousandth. We are talking about place value. We are talking about this and what it means.
Thousandth. Thousandth.
Okay, and if you look at this right here, this is a flat. You've seen a flat over and over again as you move up through your grades, through first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. This is a flat, okay? And in the flat, we have rods because it's made up of units. And this flat is made up of 100 units. Now, when we're talking about thousandth, that means that we would cut this unit into 10 pieces. And then each of these would be cut into 10 pieces. So there would be 1,000 tiny little pieces on this one block. Now, 1/1000th of a piece, you can see right there on the screen, it's highlighting it for you and it highlights it for you on the back of your vocab card inside your book as well. That's 1/1000th of a piece. Okay, now we did not do the thousandth spot yet, but it just comes right after the 100th. So let me show you. If I have my decimal point and then I have the number that we were working on, 83, behind that decimal point, and then I add one more number. This is the thousandths place. This number right here that I just added, the 1, is in the thousands place, and we would read this 831 thousandths. Crazy. Teeny, 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 tiny piece. Okay, tiny piece of a whole. All right. So, and the thousandths place, we just talked about that.
Thousandths place.
And that's that third digit after the decimal point. Okay, so those are the vocabulary words that we are going to look at right away. And like I said, you can absolutely, for right now, you can cross out those 3 that I had told you that we are not going to talk about. The base, the exponent, and the power, we're not going to talk about those right now or in the close future. We will talk about them eventually, and you might hear Mr. Wolfram talking about them a little bit, but that's not something that we are going to focus on in this class right now. Okay, so now that we went over some of the vocabulary, you are welcome to find those words in the word find right at the bottom of this first page. You're welcome to find those words in the word find if you really like word searches. Just use the definitions on the back of your vocabulary cards to match with the definitions that are next to 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you can hunt for those words in there if you'd like to. Okay? All right, my loves, I am excited to see you tomorrow, see your smiling faces tomorrow. I hope that you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.